Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Martin Hu Show. Thank you for tuning in. Today, my guest is someone I highly admire. He's been in the hospitality industry for over 10 years. He has worked with the Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts brand for over 6 years now. His name is Johan Monterrat, and he is currently the restaurant and bar manager at Marcus, which is located inside the Four Seasons Hotel of Montreal. He has worked in Paris at the Georges V. He's worked in Geneva. He speaks so many different languages. I can't even count them anymore. He's been all over the world, and today he is here with us. We talk about his journey. We dive into all the different facets of the hospitality industry. We talk about the challenges of being a manager, what he does on his free time, and many, many more things. So without further ado, please enjoy an uninterrupted session with my good friend, Johan Monterrat. All right. Joann, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for taking the time, and also you're repping the Four Seasons with the awesome hats.
Yeah, repping the local community, dime here and, in the Four Seasons here. So everything local today.
Before we go into more of the local of here, I wanted to touch upon more your origin story. Mm-hmm. Tell us what's your background? How long ago did you come to Montreal? Where were you born? Comic book kind of origin story.
Yeah, of course. I was born in south of France, in Nice. So I'm from there. I did all my school there, and then I decided after my baccalaureate that I wanted to move to Sweden. I studied architecture and urbanism there for 3 years, and then after I came back to France, and I couldn't connect with with the country. Back, there was a lot of things that were different. I didn't have the same, topic as my friends. So I decided I moved to Australia, in Sydney, worked in a nightclub. And that's where the hospitality, started. I was like, okay, I need to travel. I need to do things. I want my life to be excited. And I went back to France. I did an MBA at Essex Business School in Paris. Mm-hmm. So that took me 2 years. And then after when you do an MBA in France and ESSEC, it's quite expensive. School it was 25,000, so I had to pay back that loan. So I went to Geneva, where salaries are quite high. So I worked there for a brand named Kempinski. Worked there for 2 years, and then after when I was a kid, right beside the place I lived in the south of France. There's actually a Four Seasons there that doesn't exist anymore. It's called the Four Seasons Terre Blanche, and that's really basically how I always wanted to join Four Seasons. I don't know why, but I like to be part of something special, and I felt that the special was Four Seasons at the time in the hospitality, and the number one in service and a lot of things. So I was really interested in joining. So I worked when I was at school. I actually worked in banquets, doing events at the Georges V in Paris.
Was that after? Sorry to interrupt. Was that after your first job in a nightclub?
It was after, yeah. Okay. It was after. So I was serving basically huge events, with celebrities at the Georges V, and it was super fun. And it was at the same time I was studying to get my MBA in hospitality management. Okay. And then, I met a few managers that were there, and one of the managers happened to transfer to Beverly Hills. So he called me, and, he had a job for me at the Beverly Wilshire. And that's where I started my real career with Four Seasons. So I stayed 1 year there. Okay. I was what we call a manager in training with Four Seasons. So it's basically for everyone that goes out to school. You learn how to be a manager in different departments. My passion was food and beverage, so that's what I choose. And then after a year, because of the visa in the US was quite difficult. It was the beginning of the Trump administration as well. So I decided that I didn't want to stay in the US, so I moved to Vancouver, Canada, where I stayed 3 years with Four Seasons as well. Great city, people are amazing over there, super nice. And then I had the opportunity to come to Montreal and then open the Four Seasons here in the Marcus restaurant. And that's basically how I'm here.
That's crazy. So what a journey traveling from one place to another. So how was that first experience in a nightclub?
It was actually the first day. I had a friend that was actually a bouncer at the entrance of the nightclub. So we met in Sydney, and that's how I got to this nightclub. And the first night I remember, your first shift was actually cleaning the ladies' bathroom. That's basically how you start. And then the next 2 weeks you had to be a glassy, which is in Australia you just stack up glasses and you bring them back to the bar. Basically, that's your job. And it was just so funny to be Australia. It's such a great country. Like if I could go back, I would. Sydney is the best. Is an amazing city as well. There's great places to eat. There's a lot of things to do. And basically, I realized that I wanted to be. When I was in Sweden, all my classes were in English, and I wanted to really be good, and be the best, at speaking English, which sometimes for a French person is not doesn't come like this. So Australia was the best for that. So I really learned a lot. I met awesome people as well. Nightclub, nightclub life is good when you're 19, 20. I don't know if I could do it now.
Yeah.
But
those are the years that you just have unlimited energy.
Exactly,
it doesn't matter.
Like,
go to sleep at 5 or 6, and then you wake up the next day at 10. No hangover.
That's the thing. So in Sydney, there's so many music festivals. So going to a festival during the day, and then you start your shift at 11 p.m. and at 7 you finish, and then you go back to do other things, and it's such a great way because you have a lot of energy, and then that change a little bit when you grow up. But it's a good way to start your career because nightclubs, you learn a lot on how busy they are. But
I think you also get to experience the best of people, but also the worst of people.
Yeah.
And you learn how to deal with situations really quickly.
It's actually funny. It's the best of people when you start, and it's the worst of people when you end your shift.
Yeah, it's
so in the same way, it's like you see a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you feel, I'll never see that, and then you're like, wow, you're surprised. There's always things that surprise you. It's a fun environment. So I'm really glad I started there. And there was a few people I'm still friends with, and it's the great things of traveling and working different places is you meet people, and after they also travel, they change their life, and they move in the world, and then you have people all around the world. So good friends. So it was amazing.
Based on like the first time you went into a nightclub and like got, I would say like that was your first step into the door of hospitality. Aside from that, did you have any influences from your parents that made you kind of already love hospitality in a sense, or did you grow to love the industry more as you got different jobs in it?
I think it's mostly about I'm someone who like to live your life to the fullest, and I really want when I was a kid I traveled a lot. I was lucky to have parents that traveled a lot, who were going to great restaurants, so that helps as well. And that's why I realized that I wanted my life to be the same. And it's a thing to go on vacation to a country. It's a different thing to explore and live there for 2 years or 3 years. And
you really get immersed.
Exactly.
Like
so, and I think now that I think back as well, like if I would have lived in France, I think that when you live abroad, your brain is always constantly in some sort of state where you're like,
I think you're present.
Impressed. Yeah.
You're like, it's a weird thing, but every time I travel, and especially more like when I travel in a longer period of time, let's say it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, the mind really, you really feel different when you're present in an environment.
That's the thing. And when it's unknown, it's like you have that opportunity to always be learning new things, on a daily basis. And when you live, if for example I would have stayed in France, that would have been different, right? So it's something that I really wanted to be able to change, and go to different destination every 3 years, to discover the world was something that's really, and still is, I still want to move after Montreal, so let's see.
Going from there, You said after that first job, you probably worked at other restaurants and bars too, or was the step already going to Georges V or like?
Yeah, the step was already at Georges V. I knew someone. So
okay, amazing.
So banquets is it's different. It's volume. It's a lot of things to do at the same time, but it's very different from a restaurant where it's more details compared to banquets. But I did that, aside from school, and it was a great way to have a first step into Four Seasons and into the Four Seasons world. And I really wanted that. So as I said, the hotel that was beside my house closed down, so I wanted to be part of that Four Seasons team, and I think it's a great brand, the way it was built, and you learn so much into how you build a hospitality brand that's leading, and you have to focus on people first. It's a different approach. So
I think they're doing it fantastically.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every time you go to a Four Seasons, it's distinctively Four Seasons, and like I can't even imagine how hard it is to scale that kind of quality.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have a boutique hotel where you're really giving the top service and the top of everything, but to do that on a global scale is really impressive.
And it's all based on people, like having your employees happy, make happy guests, right? So working with all the advantage that you can have with working at Four Seasons, and a lot of people are really proud to work for that brand because it does so much for you. So if you have a brand that does so much, you want to help them to grow, and it's a win-win situation, right? So.
And how did you how was your experience, like, kind of, how did you call it, the term of when you follow a manager around to learn do you use the specific term?
Yeah, manager in training.
So I'm guessing like you're kind of shadowing them, like
it is normally like this. So you basically you have a few shifts for you, but the good thing is you changing departments, right? Because normally when you're a manager, between promotion, or you have to do banquets, you have to do room service, you have to do stewarding, you have to do restaurants. So those are different departments within a hotel. And that gives you the opportunity to explore them in a year, where if you don't do that, they can take you like 4 years, 5 years, right? So you learn a lot by being exposed to all those departments and having almost like a global view of an F&B department in a hotel.
And you get to choose whichever one.
Exactly, and it's more where you feel the most comfortable. It's all about how you're really comfortable with your position and where you want to go. And each person has different goals. For myself, for example, is to be a general manager of a hotel. So I choose F&B because you had that creative side, compared to another department that's, for example, rooms, that's also operation, where you have a little bit less creativity, but it's one of the most important departments in terms of making money, right? So basically your base is going to be rooms, but you have with F&B more creativity. It's the day-to-day is a little bit more different, right? You meet more people. So
could you give me an example of like the creative side?
Yeah, it's basically about, like for example, here at Montreal, we're opening next week the pop-up terrace. So, it's basically we're creating an outlet or restaurant from nothing. And that's the creative things, right, that I'm talking about. You have projects that are on a bigger scale, and you really see, what project you're involved in and what's the result at the end. So it's something that's really, really nice, and you also have that creativity in terms of, craftsmanship. A cocktail, a dish. It changes every time. Whether your room product will change. Let's say like every 5 years. Every 7 years. But here at the restaurant, it changes every season. So there's more creativity involved in that.
And do you? Is it that everybody has a certain role playing? Let's say like somebody that's the bar manager will take care of the cocktail list, for example, and I'm guessing they probably get some of your opinion too, or how does that work? Like,
yeah, that works like this. We do a lot of tasting prior. So basically, they started at the bar level. Everyone brings their ID. We brainstorm the ideas and we work on a new cocktail program with a few lines on what we want to achieve and what's the goal for the restaurant or for this launch. And that works like this. And I get as well the tasting. The general manager of the hotel does that as well, and all feedback is taken in account, and then we launch.
So the pop-up, is it the Mistral, right?
Yeah, Mistral. Okay. That opens this week. Yeah, and,
amazing.
And it's on the 5th floor of the Four Seasons hotel. It's inspired by the landscape of the south of France. In the countryside, I would say.
Did you have anything to do with that? I feel like you were biased with the...
I did. I'm completely biased. I have to say, you're like such a great...
Let's do something about the south of France.
I know. It's such a great topic, really. Like when you open some things, the south of France, I'm lucky to... it's such a great part of the world, and a lot of people travel there. So they will experience some part of it. And, it's such a great part as well in terms of restaurant. When you talk food... south of France, there's a lot of restaurants that do that. So people will have an experience or another regarding the south of France, and it's such a beautiful, the food is amazing, the people are just so lovely. So it's the only place I would come back if I had to come back in France, south of France.
Well, I think the weather also plays a huge role.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's
always
not like
beautiful.
the minus 20 in Montreal. It's a little bit different, but it's quite nice.
Going back 360 and coming back to where we are now in Montreal. So right now you're the restaurant manager at Marcus.
Yeah.
You've been there since the opening. What have been some, I would say, like in the life of a manager, of a restaurant manager, what are some of the things that people don't necessarily see in the day-to-day? Like, let's say I go to Marcus and I see you. I don't see all of what's happening in the background, but you have to take care of that. What are some of the challenging things like that you take care of that nobody really sees?
Well, there's a lot of administration, right? So every step when you arrive is organized. Every person is here for a reason. So there's a lot of back of office, organization to be able to set up this, right? So you all have about scheduling, and you're scheduling for a team of 60 to 80 employees. That takes a lot of time. You have the menu engineering. You have so many things on the back of the house, and what you see is really the sparkle. But you have a lot of work put behind, a lot of sweat and tears, as you said, but a lot of really good moments. And that's when you open a hotel, you never think about all the little details that might have been set up, and you think that opening hotel will take you like a year or so. But before, it's really a functioning hotel, and it's everything is working well as it should be. There's a lot of, I think there will be at least like 3 years or something. So it takes a lot of time, especially opening a hotel right before a pandemic. So that also doesn't help. But we've been lucky enough to have Four Seasons as a brand, behind us, and that helps. It's one of the only restaurants in town where all the staff is back. We didn't even lose any of our employees, because they know that they will have the Four Seasons experience, and they know why they're here, and to make people happy, and to really go create memories, and that's the most important thing. If you're a server, you want to be you want to be able to do you want to recognize a guest, and we give everyone and all our staff this experience, so.
And it must be quite a kind of like a camaraderie that you build with the people you work with, because it's, I think, coming from the restaurant industry myself, it's easy for a place where at a bigger scale to just have a lot of rotation, right, of staff, because I think the bigger you become, just as a brand, per se, it's easy to become kind of lazy with the day-to-day, person-to-person things. You kind of want to simplify everything, but by doing that, I think you lose that human touch, which is the most important.
Yeah, you have to go. I think you have to go in details every day, and helping your employees for whatever reason, and really be human. Be at some points, I know a few people that work in other restaurant, and sometimes the way you're treated is it's a little bit different, and because we're here to listen as well, because an employee is a human person, so they also have issues that they have. They can have that they share with you, and if they are successful, you will be successful. So it's quite, I think it's exactly the case.
In a service where let's say a night, regular Friday night, Thursday night, or Saturday, I mean, you guys are pretty much like fully booked a lot of times, but probably Friday, Saturday is like the busiest of your nights. How do you keep level-headed? Because I feel like, in this kind of an environment, it's like the constant is the chaos, right? There's always things happening.
It's a very stressful environment. I'm not gonna lie, but the good thing is, like, what they usually do is every situation, when it's done, you can only think about the future, right? So you can only try to improve a certain situation and then move forward. So if you only stay, during your shift about, the first table is not going well and you have an issue, let's try to move on and move to the rest of the reservation. And if people have also tendency to focus on the negative, right? So at Four Seasons, for example, when we have a bad experience or something, it happens. We can have once a night, twice a night, but at the end, it's only 2% out of the 400 covers that we'll do, right? And the 400 other covers, they're left really happy. So we have to focus on that, positivity and, and guest experience that is successful, right? So I'm trying to keep, my calm by doing that, and it's really focusing on the bigger picture and the guests that are happy, and, try to, and if someone is not happy, we'll reinvite them and we'll try to make their next experience the best that they have.
And I guess like when you're the employees, the waiters, the waitresses, the bartenders, when they see that you keep your calm, it also makes them kind of follow in the same direction, because if they see you and you're freaking out, they will kind of go in the same vein, and they'll start being mad at guests, because at the end we're still human, so we do have emotions in the moment. Like, let's say as a waiter, I've had instances where you serve a table but they're just really rude for whatever reason, and and that's fine, because
sometimes it's not your fault,
and you never know what's happening with them too. So how do you because I know that you can keep your calm, but does it happen that, like, let's say a waiter or a waitress kind of gets into a downward spiral of negativity? How do you pull them out of that? And I talk to them, I make them move forward all the time, think about the good thing that they're doing. And a table that is missed, as I say, you're gonna serve like 20 tables a night. If you miss one, it's all right, I'm good with that. It's and if the table, sometimes you have tables that don't want to connect, and that happens. But you can't do anything about it. And a good server is also a server that will realize it, and and take a step back and think about you're here to help people and to make their experience amazing. And sometimes if you're not successful, that has to be okay. It's not we're not going to do a discipline about it. We're not going to do if you make a mistake, and that's let's say a tray that falls down on a guest, for example, that will involve coaching, right? But we're not like here to punish people, right? We're here to help them and move forward and learn about an experience, so it doesn't happen again the next time, and they know how to handle it better. So that's a little bit the role that we have.
when we do so much volume, we have like 10 servers on the floor and two other in the lounge. It's a lot of
variables
of people. So lots of variables that enter. Someone that meet you can have so many things that impact your experience. It can be your arrival experience with the security. It can be at the the menu. You're not happy with the menu because you were expecting something different. The food doesn't go on time because we have a group of 30 at the same time. It can be anything. But
I think at the end, the communication is the key. Communication
is always key in a restaurant. It's the most important part. It's also the most difficult part to have a line, because the difficult thing is we're like 4 manager, and we always have to have our communication aligned together. If not, that doesn't work, right? If someone is going to tell another employee something,
and then you
in
say
a
something different
way, So that's the issue. So we're trying to be aligned all the time. It's not necessary all the time, and we correct it when we're wrong. A manager can make mistake the same way a server does. It's not because their management that they have that really powerful things that they never make mistake. No, you have to recognize your mistake, and that helps a lot. When you come forward and you say, okay, that's my mistake, I apologize, and let's move forward and do something else.
Yeah, and because of that, like, let's say we're talking from a client perspective. You come in, let's say you come in on a Friday, and then you come to the door, and the doorman says, no, we're at full capacity, right? You instinctively as the client, sometimes it can be kind of taken as like, oh well, what, you're really full, or you're just telling me that
that you're not good enough to enter this place,
or like they can take it different ways. But what we have to understand too is that if they make an exception for you, they have to make an exception for everyone, right?
That's the thing. And sometimes I try to explain a client, when we fully booked, and I try to tell them, I don't have any more tables, so I really want you to have the best experience possible. So, most of the time we find a situation, because we're lucky enough to have a restaurant that's quite large, and we can, move little things around. But, we try not to say no, but maybe no, but, or let me see what I can do. Let me try to do a little something, and if it's not tonight, then maybe I can make a reservation for tomorrow or another day, so at least you're sure that we have space for you, and we can host you in the best way.
I've went to the Marcus recently to try the new menu.
Yeah,
it's very, very good. And apparently Marcus is gonna he's working on another addition to the menu. Is that something I heard? Or
so we have a new chef, Jason Morris, who's doing really well at the moment. He's coming from Le Fantôme and other place in Montreal. Is local, and then Marcus Samuelson is our chef for the restaurant, the face of the restaurant, I would say. So unfortunately, with the pandemic, he wasn't able to come, but he will be back very soon with us to do a few nights here and there, and do a little special menus and things like this. We always, when he's in town, we always want to make it special to the guests that we have, because it's such a great chef and such a great personality and story. It's I used to live in Sweden, and I know that there is a lot of a large Ethiopian community in Sweden, because they were the first to open their door when there was a civil war there, and such a great story that he has, and that's why. So we're so happy when he comes to Montreal.
I've had the pleasure to meet him actually.
You did?
At the opening.
Yeah.
I was there because he invited one of my clients that was the chef from Tiradito, Marcel Larea.
Yeah.
And because we're doing the media and the marketing for them, so I came to take some pictures too on that night, and was seeing what it was at that time to what Marcus became now, it's been very exciting.
It's such a fun guy, is always about the experience and the atmosphere of the restaurant, which is, as important as the food. We're trying to have different DJs. We're gonna go back to live music on Wednesdays. We have gospel brunch. So all those activities is not about only the food and the design. It's all about the music, the atmosphere, everything.
Everything plays an important role.
Exactly, and we
it's
lucky.
Crazy. Like I go to these other places in Montreal where there's a nice setting, food is good, but then like the musical side is kind of omitted. So you feel like it could have been so much more. But then sometimes you eat and you're like, it's good, but I feel like I'm going to fall asleep now.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, there's not a nice groove going. All of that is super important. And it makes you want to stay more too.
Yeah, it's the thing. So, at Marcus, we're so lucky to have different as well setup. You arrive, you have the lounge, that's a different vibe. Then you go to the restaurant at 5:30. It's a different vibe than at 9:30. When the music is booming and it's very different. And then you go to the terrace, also different. And then you come back, you have that night bar. You have like in the same social square, like 5 or 6 environments that are different, but that you will like, and you're able to change environment at the same time during the same night. And to be able to offer that, I think it's the success of Marcus, because it's doing very well based on that. The food is amazing and the atmosphere is amazing and yeah, I think it's just a great place. And I wouldn't work there, I would still say the same, because it's the kind of restaurant where you like to go because other important people in Montreal will go, or your friends will go, and you want to be seen there, and you want to take a picture, and you want to post it on your social media. Everything is about social media right now. And we always laugh because the number one place where everyone takes pictures is a lady bathroom, right? So at Marcus, ladies bathroom, they spend so much time over there. And it's
hilarious.
It's like 70% of our pictures on Instagram, but it's working. People are coming for that, and that's helping.
Last time I was at the Marcus, my girlfriend goes into the bathroom and she's like, "My God, like." I went in there and there was literally like tens of girls just there.
Yeah.
And like all the bathrooms were empty. But everyone's there.
It's a photo shoot in there. It's like, it's insane.
And then meanwhile you go into the guy's bathroom, it's so quiet, so peaceful. You can just like, this door, I take this bathroom, no problem. There's no traffic.
It shows that, the power of Instagram. You want to be like, you want to have a picture of you in that really like super trendy environment, and if it's a bathroom, it's a bathroom. But it's just the decor is amazing. So, and there's also the restaurant. You have all those plants, and
I think you touched upon a really good point, which is that there's so many different ambiance and setups. So regardless of where you are in the restaurant, you will have a different experience. Exactly. Like even let's say in the Marcus restaurant itself, if you're seated on the terrace side, looking over the Leonard Cohen mural, it's a different experience than if you're sitting at a booth, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a different experience than if you're sitting at a table in the middle, in front of the DJ. Like
everything is different, especially in terms of timing. If you come at 5:30, if you come at 7, if you come at 9:30, if you come just for drinks at 11, the lights will be different, the music will be different, your menu might be different as well. So there's a lot of things that plays a part. And when you come to a restaurant often, that plays a role as well, because you don't want to leave the same thing, right? If you already came last week at 5:30, switch it to 7:30, and that's a different ambience.
Yeah, and I love the flexibility about that. That's one of the reasons why I love coming there. Because I can come there at the lounge at 4, have a coffee, have a little cocktail, and then I could come the next week at 7 or 8. It's going to be completely different. I'm not there to work anymore. Let's say it's a Friday. And every time it's good memories, because you don't feel like it's a routine. Like you don't feel like because there's so many restaurants that because it's always the same setup, and it's almost like after you go in a year, you feel like I don't want to go there anymore.
and it's the same. We're gonna open breakfast again and brunch, and we opened already, and lunch. Everything is different, and it's almost open like 24 hours. There's only we close the night bar at 3 a.m. and we open at 6 a.m. for breakfast.
Okay.
So it's almost that you can always be there. There's always things to do and different place in the restaurant to explore.
6 a.m.
Yeah, restaurant was like 6:30 or 7, something like this.
Okay.
But it only leaves you like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Okay.
Difference. So yeah.
But like, would it would be open to the public at 6:30 or 7?
7, yeah. 7
Okay.
for the breakfast.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost finish at the night bar and then, go for a stroll in the city and
exactly, come back. And then come back. If you go to Montreal for a little walk, you come back, and then you can have breakfast at Marcus. It's great. So. But
with the regulations right now, are you able to open until 3 now? Or when would it be?
We'll see. We'll see when the government gives us some rules about that. But so far we decided that 12 is our last call, and then all guests have to be out of the restaurant by 1. And I think it's working well. But I think with the night bar, it had that that little touch of craziness. And
I mean, of course.
And you want to party, you want to have a good time, you want to be with your friend, and with a DJ, and you can be that VIP booth at the end is just amazing. You're right beside the DJ, and you're having your bottle of vodka right beside. It's amazing. So
yeah, and that's the thing when people start drinking, it's always like, the last one, and the last one and the last one.
Yeah,
and then that's also your job to reinforce certain rules.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's been clients that like at 12:01 they want another drink.
Oh, and there is. We do last call, at 11:45 to prevent that, so that helps. But we explain to clients that those are the rules, being in place by the Four Seasons, and they mostly understand. So yeah.
I also wanted to cover a bit about work-life balance.
Yeah.
You're someone that as a manager you probably work more than the days that you're actually at the restaurant. It's probably always running in your head what you need to do or who you need to talk to in the team. So how do you find some time off, or like how do you find some balance with all that kind of pressure and responsibilities?
Honestly, it's I'm working a lot. I'm a workaholic, but I'm also starting from the fact that I really do like what I do, and my work is taking a lot of part of my time, but it's something that I really enjoy. So sometimes it's not even working, it's for me, it's not I'm just having a good time and being with guests, and then when I'm off, most of the time I try to take a few hours for myself, watching some Netflix or going on Instagram, or
so you do have your
restaurant,
your escapism kind of.
Yeah, a little bit, but because it's a restaurant, it's taking a big part of you. But I still, it's not that I need to cut with the restaurant. I just need to take a step back and do other things.
Recharge a bit. Yeah.
Recharge a little bit, a little bit mentally, and watching a good movie or a good show will help you with that, and that's the only thing I need, and just spending time with my girlfriend and basically is the only thing I need, and then I take holidays or vacation once a year, and I'm good. It's I don't really need to cut with anything. I just need to I still think about it, but in a different way. I'm less involved.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when you find that perfect craft that you should be spending time on, I think when you're in the restaurant, you're doing your thing, it just comes up naturally, and you just in the moment, you're in the flow, so you don't feel it. But then when you disconnect and you come home, your body physically might be exhausted, even though mentally I think you're still like very sharp and attuned. Is that a bit like you're feeling?
It's exactly that. I think the last few hours, of a shift of the week might be where you really feel it, and then the first week, when I start again on a Wednesday after my weekend, it takes me like at least a few hours to reconnect. So yeah, I think it's if it was me, I would work most of the time and take a few hours during the day to relax. But I'm trying to I think when you work for something that you really like you said, to me it's more like, it's, as I said, it's not a job. It's more like, I'm gonna have a good time. There's things that are painful or difficult to do or you don't want to do, or those are the hard things. But
like every job,
exactly. So, but the rest, for me, it's there's not a lot of those, and out of the 100% of my job, I like 98%.
So that's pretty good.
So that's pretty good. It's just a few things. Sometimes they can. If you're having a bad day, you have to think that there's always a way to make it positive. It's always about positivity and turning your day. Something it will not start the right way, but as long as it ends the right way, it's the most important. And as long as you think that you might have done something today that impacted someone else, and I'm happy with that. I
think like your kind of environment is perfect for that, because you're really orchestrating a good experience for all the guests that are there. So what they say sometimes in self-help or success or whatever is that they talk a lot about feeling of the feeling contribution.
Yeah.
Right. And if you feel like you're contributing towards your work, you're helping other people feel good, have a good experience, it almost fuels you. Even though you're tired, like you're like, but all these people are here, so I might as well like put my game on and
that's the thing. So it's how you make an impact on other people. It can be guests, it can also be a coworker, it can be so many things that you want to touch and impact. So as long as you do this once a day, and I think it's working well. So
and I think that's your output.
Yeah.
Like that's almost like you were talking about, like the creative that you get to bring into the Four Seasons. Like every interaction is different. Every scenario, every night is going to be different, and that's kind of how you deal with the dance, right? Like it's not robotic, because you're always, depending on the night, depending on who's working with you, depending on the guests that are there, going to be a completely different experience.
There's always going to be something that's different from the night before, and that's what I like about this job as well. And I couldn't do a 9 to 5 behind the office job. I need that.
You need a 3 to 6, right?
Yeah.
No, a 6 to 3.
6 to 3. I need to really have fun and I think a manager is almost like a maestro. Like playing some sort of music with the help of the orchestra, and as long as the show goes well, everything goes well. And someone might miss a note or something, that's all right. It's looking at the bigger picture and the service, and as long as the restaurant doesn't burn, everything is all right? That's what we say. So.
It's true. And it is a good analogy, because it's a chef d'orchestre. Like you're orchestrating the music.
Because you don't have to be with every guest. You just have to be with the guest at the key moments of the service, like the entrance, welcoming them, and when they leave. And if you do that and you use the name, for example, and they haven't seen you for the whole service, and they say, wow, how does you remember my name? Oh, I know what you order, because you observe, right? It's a lot of observation and
do you have tips on that? Well, on remembering people's names and everything? Because I
do. I'm really good with names, honestly, but it's mostly that I'm trying to check. We have a POS system that gives you the name. So, I try to focus as well on like 10 to 15 guests per night. That I'm really going to connect for real discussion, because we do so many. We do like almost 400 covers, so I can't connect with everyone. But if I select a few here and there, that I'm really going to speak for, like for a few 5 minutes or 10 minutes and make a difference in the experience, That's how I do it. And there's other manager as well helping me, and we try not to choose the same guest. And at the end, all the tables are touched, as you say, in the business. So you will speak to every table. So
yeah, in the same way that maybe you don't talk to every guest, but you talk to your waiters or waitresses or bartenders, and they will give a good experience to your guests. So everything kind of trickles down in a sense.
And there's a lot of guests often don't realize that there's a lot of preparation prior to the shift, in terms of knowing your guest. And you might have come 2 months ago and you mentioned to your server you had an allergy. We'll remember that, because we take notes in our reservation system, and it's taken from there, and then we'll remember. So we have, when you're regular and you come often, we have this kind of information that helps us tailoring your experience to what you expect. So
and you have a fantastic team, honestly. I can't say enough good things about whether it's Marie, whether it's Anissa. I mean, and even behind the bar, Arnaud. He's amazing.
It's the best in town. They all here because they have something. I like to say that I have a really different team. Every personality is different, because every person that joins us at the restaurant is also different. So you might have someone that is more international, someone that is used to luxury service, someone that is not used to luxury service, right? Sure. So all of this, we have a server for you, and we can tailor your experience, right? And that's the important about that. Some server will be amazing with kids because they have kids themselves, and some don't. It's all this that runs into that enters and help us with the show that we're putting on every night. So,
and I think also because of that, you can't take anything personally, because there's certain people, let's say, they just won't connect with you because you're not the type of vibe that they're looking for, right?
And sometimes it's a shame, but you have to accept that, right? And some people, when I go to the restaurant, I like to have a good conversation with my girlfriend, and I don't like if the server connect too much with us, and I'm this kind of person, so I also understand all this. So and some people will connect with the server, almost the server is part of the table. So it's really different, and it's based on the personality of everyone.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, if we don't see you outside the Four Seasons, we would never know you have a lot of tattoos on your arm. You're what? Can you tell us a bit more about that? How is it part of you, and how do you express yourself through that?
I think it's I think tattoos are a great way to express your views, but also the moments that you live in your life, and remember those. And I was lucky enough to travel, and I had tattoos in different countries, and when I will look at them, I will remember a special moment or something special that at the time I was like, oh, that was the right thing to do. So I do have a few. As I some of them are really bad now, in bad shape. And when I was in Sydney, my first one, I remember I went surfing 2 days after, because it was my first tattoo. I had no idea what a tattoo was, and I had no idea you had to keep the strap on for
because you have to let it dry. And
exactly. So I went on the sun, and now it looks really bad, but it's part of how I was at the time, and the learning process. So I don't want to have it redone or covered, right? So I love that with tattoos you can express yourself. I think it's a great thing. And I think it's really, now it's going very well with the world that we live in. People like to be different from one another, and tattoo help you with that. The same is for clothing, sneakers that I always love, as well. Mm-hmm. So and
I think we all have a certain thing that I call it the money dial.
Yeah.
In the sense that I don't ever want to cut on very small insignificant things, because I was raised like that from immigrant parents, that they were always saying, oh, don't get the $3 coffee, get the $1.75 or $1 coffee. But as I progressed through my career and everything, I just realized that I actually don't like that. Like if I want to buy a $3 coffee, I'll buy it. But I'm really just ruthlessly selective about what I spend on. So if I want to spend on cameras, for example, which is what we do at the agency, we do a lot of production for video and photo, I'm not afraid to spend on that. But on the same token, I'll probably not spend like, $2,000 or $4,000 on a pair of Balenciagas or like a Balenciaga bag or something. Like, for me, that's not my money dial.
Yeah.
But then when you choose if you want to spend something on, I think it's healthy because you feel like you've worked for it and then you buy it.
Yeah.
It becomes part of you too.
No, I agree. I think, I'm not like I don't buy coffee. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink so much alcohol at all, almost none now. So, I have those, I like tattoos because I think it's fun and, it helps, I think people questioning about, as we mentioned before, when I'm at the restaurant, I'm wearing a suit, so no one knows that I have tattoos. And I think when you see me outside and that, you judge me at the restaurant and then you see me outside and the difference that there is, and people can see my real personality because I'm putting a face on, for the restaurant. It's all a show. And I think that's it's just like starting a questionment within, a person, why, okay, you have so many tattoos, so why, what happened, and starting conversation like this, I think it's great, and.
But what's funny is that you're not even putting on a show in the sense that like it's who you are. It's just that you covered some part of your tattoo.
I guess I have different personalities then. Yeah, no, but that's true. I mean,
like it's not like you're outside and like Joann is just like crazy rude to someone. You're always you're someone that has a warmth and like you're good with hospitality. And that transfers onto wherever you go. It's just sometimes you wear something more formal. So maybe people might be like, oh, he's the manager of the resto. And then you go outside and you have some shorts on and a t-shirt and some tattoos. And people are like, no, this is not Joe. But it's still you at the end.
And I think it's funny just to start that, questioning and surprising people, and usually when I have conversation with some employees that I see for the first time outside, and they don't know that, I think it's funny. It makes them feel comfortable. So they're also like, oh yeah, my manager is actually the same as I am, right? So, he's very close to, he can have the same experience, so I can relate to him. So,
yeah, I think the most important part is having that human imperfection that somebody can relate to, because I think a lot of times when people think manager or something, it's almost like that title has such a connotation with it that you're the manager, so like you probably know anything about everything and you don't make mistakes. And
people think we don't make mistake. People think we were not young before and we just arrive at the management level like this, and no, we made mistake like any other person before. We might have addiction, we might have things, but we're not perfect, but we're on the way to be the best person that we can be, and that's how I think a manager is, and sometimes you have to realize that as well. What
are some of your future? Why I'm guessing right now the Mistral is going to be opening. Are you gonna be spending a lot of time there, or maybe someone else, or
someone else? We're gonna have a manager there, and I think I'm gonna be here and there just to ensure that everything is working perfectly at the beginning. But that's some of the goals that are coming. I lived in so many cities. I love Montreal, but I also want to continue exploring the world. So I have a personal goal to move somewhere else and learn a new culture, right? So a new city or maybe a resort, it's also a possibility, but I also need that change. I've been now for 2.5 years in Montreal. It's been one pandemic, so 1 year when I didn't sell anything that the 4 walls I live in. So, but I really want to continue exploring for the rest of my life, and I think there's an opportunity. I hope by the end of the year or early 2022. So.
And would there be any consideration for Asia?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my girlfriend is of Asian origin, so yeah, it's a great. I would love if it could be like a great city like Tokyo or Seoul or Singapore or Bangkok. You know, there's two choices. You know, I can go to a resort and discover something else, or I can go out of the comfort zone. I always wanted to live in a country that English is not their main language. And I think it's great because you really go out of your comfort zone, right? You have to learn, and I really want to do that, and that's one of the next goals as well.
Have you worked in resorts, and like what's the difference between like a Four Seasons resort versus the hotel? I'm sure you have a good.
Usually a resort will have different restaurant, different selection. It's almost like an all-inclusive, right? You go there, you stay within the hotel, you have everything that's ready for you. You want to go there for, you want to go play tennis, you can play tennis. You want to go to the pool, you can go to the pool. And it's in the location also, either in the mountains or outside of the city centers, basically. And
it's really gonna be like a retreat almost.
Yeah, almost.
You would be there to really stay and disconnect yourself from.
That's the thing. So, and in resorts, you also learn different operations. So, when you're on a remote island, the supply chain might be different. It's you have to question everything in a different way. So that's also what I want to learn. So yeah,
and let's see. We hope that you don't leave us too soon though. Like
no, it's all right. I'm still gonna be there, but. Whenever if you wanna visit or you're always welcome. Mm-hmm. Four Seasons is a family, so it's a small family. So we see. I remember when I started as an MIT, one of the manager I work with is now working at the Four Seasons in Montreal as well with me. And we did different cities between.
Oh, that's crazy! Yeah?
I think it's life is. I think it's funny. The Four Seasons world is it's very small. So you start to know everyone, and after 5 years now I'm starting to know a lot of people within the brand. So that's also an advantage for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't plan on going with any other brand. So I like to stay with Four Seasons and really see what I can bring to them, and they bring a lot of things to me. So that works perfectly. It's a good relationship.
Yeah, I think it is. And like if you could describe the Four Seasons brand in a couple of sentences or maybe a couple of keywords, what would be your first choice?
I would say people, unique experience. That's the two things. You will meet people there that I don't think any other brand has. We're lucky to have some employees that have some craftsmanship that is amazing, and so unique in the world. And then experience, you talk about the Four Seasons, we talked about the Four Seasons jet, we have that experience that you can travel within a jet, across the world. We have a boat as well, in the Maldives, and you have just so many experience with the brand that are so unique, and so many good craftsmen, a chef, a bartender, and it's so unique, and we're really working on that craftsmanship, because now it's so important. How do you differentiate yourself from another brand, for example? Everything's based on craftsmanship, and how you do things better,
I think the type of collaborations you've been able to do in Montreal, with Marcus, mm-hmm. an amazing chef in his own respect, beautiful food, beautiful service there. And I think before the podcast, we were actually talking about the Nike brand and how sometimes you associate yourself with certain people that have a certain image. And I think that for the Four Seasons too, to grow mm-hmm. the reach, the brand, but also the quality might be a good, I think you guys are already doing that. And it's working very well, because everywhere that we go, it's Four Seasons, but it's a bit different. But you feel at home, and it's the Four Seasons.
Yeah, we always tell our employees that, when I recruit someone, for example, I always tell them, I'm recruiting someone for their personality, for their attitude. I can teach them the rest, but the attitude and the personality and the background that you have during the interview is so important. And I don't ask my employees to be robots. I want them to be different and to be handling situations in a different way, because that's what makes us our success, right? If we have robots that do the same thing, everyone can do that, right? So reservation, I used to work for brands where reservation, they give you a paper and you have to follow lines, right? Four Seasons is different. We don't do that. It's more about be yourself, and there's a goal, and you will get to the goal the same way as but in a better mind, with better mind, and that's the important thing.
And I guess for you, the challenge also to find the right balance of how much is one's mindset very valuable in its own sense, but how much do they have to change too? Because sometimes I think, obviously we all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But there's some point too we can use excuses for our weaknesses, right? But then there's a right balance to say, hey, maybe you're not right for this, but you might be right for that. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that? When someone feels like they might be on shortcoming about something, but then you say, hey, don't worry about it. You can focus on something else. How do you do that?
There's always, I think, people can, you can train people. I'm really a believer into coaching, and working with people, and there's not often a timeline into place. When we have a server that wants a promotion and that wants to be an assistant manager, for example, there's a lot of things that comes together, but we want to make sure that they know what they have to learn in order to do that, and how we can teach those things, and in order to make them a better person. Will they be successful? Sometimes it's not the case, and sometimes we have to find other solution. And it's the same for people that apply to the Marcus restaurant. Will you fit with the team that's already in place? Will your personality bring something to the team as well? And that's what I'm looking. I'm also always asking, what's your biggest strength, but what's also something that you have to work on. And this is the hardest question that everyone, block, because, realizing what you have to work on is difficult.
It doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, it doesn't come naturally. So it's very difficult. But being honest about it is what I'm looking for. So, you can say you have to work on something, and that's fine, because we'll work on this with you. But
I think ideally
acknowledging this is amazing, and I find it very, very strong, and powerful to be able to say, okay, I need to improve that thing, for example.
Yeah, it shows that you're honest with yourself, you're
Exactly.
self-aware, and also you as the manager, and as anyone that has a company that's doing any kind of entrepreneurial venture, like managing people, you have to create the environment where the person actually feels safe to talk about it, because there's a lot of times when, let's say, the person doesn't feel safe, and then you ask, well, what's your biggest weakness, or what's something you have to work on? Maybe sometimes they kind of want to put on the front just because they don't know exactly how you're going to take it. But if you make them feel like, hey, it's fine, I have my shortcomings too.
That's the thing, nobody's perfect. I believe in that, and when we talked about even icons in the sports world, and they all make mistakes. Everyone does, and it's just how we are, as humans, and that's all right. It's just to acknowledge that you made a mistake and move forward and learn from the process is the most important thing, right? How to try to turn that mistake into quality or something. So I when I was in MIT, I remember I was sometimes too stressed and sometimes too direct, and you work on all those things and trying to be more understand towards a person, or spending more time with them. So I think it's more like it's not there's an end goal, and it's the way you get there that that it's the process is the most important thing, right? It's not the goal at the end. It's what you will learn through that.
It's a journey. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean the journey, you will go through different things. You will go through things. I will go through things that are different, and it's important, I think.
Well, there was a quote that I listened to a podcast episode not long ago, and this guy he said something around the sense of like, winning is great.
Yeah.
But all the best lessons are learned when you lose.
That's true.
Right? And so like, I think even during a service, during your career, every setback is an opportunity to grow from that and not just spiral down in like a negative loop,
And you always forget that, in the winning or in a shift or in a success, there's a lot of things that are hidden and you don't see, the progress, it's the same when you open a company, you only see the success and the end product, but you've been through so many things during that process, and that makes you, a better person every time. So the journey is so important, and for my journey, I'm so happy. I'm so lucky to have been able to to travel the world and work with the same company, and I feel really lucky. But I would have stayed with architecture or urbanism, it would have been a different thing. So so yeah, it's they don't prepare you to that when you're 18 or at school, and they don't tell you about that. But yeah, I think
you learned that in a nightclub.
Yeah, I learned about it in a nightclub. Yeah, but moving around is what I think you always have to keep that mind of exploring and
continuously expanding your view, right?
And meeting new people. With the COVID, everyone was
very
in their home, and you close yourself, and and it's hard to reopen. But I realized that you miss so much the human interaction, right? And it's the base, it's like being with other people, and
that the number one cause of death, of diseases, is actually loneliness.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy, because people are just here. Sometimes you have to do the first step, and some people may be shy or worried about how they will be judged, and because people can judge you for sure, but you have to go past that and make that step to go, okay, let's go over this and be confident in yourself. And it's not easy. But it's necessary. But it's necessary if you wanna grow, and if you wanna you might talk to someone in the street, and they might go through personal things that are so difficult that you have no idea, or an employee. But you have to make the first step and be confident about yourself, and try to always move forward is important. And I always tell my staff, when they have a bad interaction, or something that hit them in their life, and just look at the future and where you are, and if you see yourself compared to other people, in other part of the world, how lucky you are.
Wow, we're
to be here.
So grateful, so privileged and blessed. Yeah.
And sometimes we forget about that, to have a roof on our head, and to be able to meet different people, and even to have the vaccine right now. It's like we talk about COVID, and some people that don't want to take the vaccine, and some countries where they fight to get the vaccine because their life is based on that and on tourism, and it has to come back. And when you all think about that and put in perspective, it's not about yourself anymore. It's about the world, and other people. And
so you mentioned earlier that you wanted to move eventually into the position of being general manager of a Four Seasons hotel. Yeah. How does that differ from being the manager of Marcus, which you are right now? Yeah. And what are the tips you would give to people in whatever area they're at, whether it's you're a bartender, you want to become a bar manager, or you're starting out as waiter or waitress and then you want to become a manager? How do you rise up to the occasion, and how do you bring it up to maybe the direction of the hotel? How did that work out for you?
So I think there's two things. The first thing is you have to be patient. General manager for a hotel, there's a lot of step before. The next step for me would be assistant director of a division. A division will be like food and beverage, for example, in the hotel, which takes the kitchen, the restaurant, room service, banquets. So that would be the next step. But being patient and really trust yourself and the process and your learning process. You can't go too fast. Because if you go too fast, people will realize that you don't have the skills that are necessary to your position. So you have to really master those skills, and that's what I like with Four Seasons. Is like, your promotion doesn't come in 6 months or a year. You have to do at least a year and a half or 2 years in your current position to really master that, and then you're ready for the next one. But before that, they give you more project. They give you a few things, and they really follow up on what you have to do in order to progress and get to the next step. And for me, it's more about having that overall view of an F&B and how does that work, and the division. And because I might go to a hotel where they have like 3 or 4 restaurants. First, and then you move up the ranks to be a director of food and beverage, and then after a hotel manager, and then a general manager. So there's a lot of steps, and it doesn't come like this. But you have to work hard. Obviously, it's the first thing,
But I mean, also deliver on what your job description is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like not just talking about hotel, but like I think people in general have a bias of like overestimating how much we do and maybe underestimating how much we don't do. Like we're kind of biased towards ourselves, right? Because we're rooting for us, so we're like, hey, I deserve this, or I deserve that. But at the end, the results don't lie. And
you always think you're ready for the next steps sooner than anyone else.
Yeah.
And this is because what you think, but I think in the hotel world and in the company world as well, the perception is really important. So how do they perceive you on your job? And if you what's your behavior, what's your body language when you're on the shift? Are you happy to be here? Are you not happy? Do they see success on the long term for you? Do they not? There's all those questions that goes into play, and it takes time. I think when I was first going out of school, I was like, okay, I'm ready to take first the role of manager right away. At the restaurant, and there's so much that goes into it, and you have to learn. And I'm so glad that I had to go through those steps before, because I think that makes me a better person and a better manager now, and people would have realized. So I'd rather say, oh, you went a little slowly, or you went, it's like you don't have to compare yourself to any other person, right? Some people will go out of school at the same time as you, and they will have a higher position by now. But it really depends on how you feel comfortable in the perception of other. It's good to be I had a few people that I did school with, and the general manager for a hotel now, but are the good general manager, right? So what's the perception of others, and that's
it's also like you should be happy wherever you are, right?
And I'm really happy with what I have. I work for a great brand, and I think it's amazing to have the same opportunity as I have, and to be able to travel the world and discover so many places, and I'm thankful for that. So,
and I think like coming back to what we were saying, like when all these different steps, all these different positions that you have to assume, at least when you're doing that and you focus on mastering that, you can actually have actionable steps to improve. Because I feel like sometimes when people, like, especially in the self-help world and more like in this type of era where everything is so up in the clouds, right? It's always like, dream big and nothing can stop you. But I still think that's a bit delusional, because at the end of the day, you're only gonna get to that point if you take one step after the other. Like, you're not gonna make a big jump to that point, right? So why is it that it's almost like people want to dream so big that they don't even know what to do to get there?
That's the thing. And I think society shows you, only the successful person, and not the one that are, that are doing things differently, or that are, going through a different road. They always say, we always say in hotels, you have to go through hospitality school to work in hotels. I don't think that's the case. You can go through a different school and come back to hotels because, you know someone, or you've been through, you work in a restaurant, or you work in different things that link you to a hotel. But it doesn't have to be a hospitality school. And people will focus on, very successful person, but they will only talk about the success, not what they did before, and I always remember, there's, people that are successful now that might have applied to different jobs and didn't get it. They're just the same as we are. Yep. And they also have the same struggle that we do. And at the end, they work hard and it work well for them. But I think it's hard to measure success. It depends on every person. I'm sure we have a different vision of success, but it's, it can be success in your life, it can be work life, in family. Some people will be happy with family and two kids, and that's amazing for them, and they shouldn't be judged for that.
But I think the important part is not even how we define success, but at least like, what are the steps to get there? Yeah. Right? Because a lot of times, like, people don't even ask themselves the question of, what is a successful life for me? Exactly. Right? Like, they're just following what society thinks is the cool thing to follow, which is, I want more money, I want more this.
Exactly. But how do you define success? Do you base it on money? Do you base it on, happiness?
The freedom that you have to spend some time with your kids,
Success can be measured, someone that lives by himself on an island and that's happy with that. Yeah. Is successful, right? Because he achieved that happiness and that field. But
wait, does he own the island, or?
It depends, but it's really based on, I think success can be measured by so many different things. And we shouldn't, I think the society now is working with a lot of judgment and and comparison. Instagram is an example, right? You always compare yourself to someone else because you're doing a cooler thing, something that's different, something that's unique.
I think it's so crazy, this whole era of, we have access to so much information. Mm-hmm. It's actually made people, myself included, I feel myself sometimes getting into this loop, but I'll see someone at a restaurant. Let's say we're at the Marcus and we're like, I'm there, I'm at the restaurant, and I'll sometimes hear or overhear some people thinking about their next night out. And it's like, they can't even think about like the moment they're sharing right now. It's like, okay, when's the next party? I'm like, you're at the party now. Why are you thinking about the next party?
100%.
It's the same thing with like your job position. Like, you might be here now, but I mean, that's all that counts. You're here now and you're on your way there. And I think we have this perception that society sometimes, our upbringing, our friends, culture puts onto us, and we get so absorbed by that, and we're just looking at the shiny object, right? Like, this is where I want to be, and if I have that, I'd be 100% happy.
Yeah, but I think you have to see what it needs to make you happy. Like, you talked about that, talk about the position that, you have to be in the moment. You definitely have to, because, every single day will make you stronger and prepare you for the next position, for example, right? So when you plan a party and if you enjoy the party you're in, it will prepare you for the next party. So it's something like this. So you have to really live that moment, because you will not come back. And living on things that you miss, it's difficult. It's like you always have to see what's coming and what's the next step, and be prepared for that. Because if you only live on your regrets or things you miss, it's tough, to always think about that. So.
Yeah, and also because when you're actually taking the time to enjoy where you're at, you'll learn better, and also you'll be better appreciative of when you actually get the next thing.
Exactly. And
right?
when you look back, you won't remember that moment, and you will not remember it as a regret, or you forget something, or you didn't do anything. You just lived it, and now you remember, and that's it.
Well, I think it's a bit like when you're a kid, right? Like when you're a kid, you always want to become like 18 to go out, right? Like you're like time. I feel like time from like 0 years old to like 16 or 18, it was like 8 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Right? Like you always wanted to become this adult, and then when you become the adult, you're like, shit, that was really good times too, you know? Like it was amazing. Like
the time when you first enter your first job and you want to have it, and you say, oh, I was good at school, maybe my teachers were all over me, and my exam was late, but maybe I should have enjoyed that time, because it doesn't come back.
Well, and you always have more responsibilities in the same way, like which I know you will become, like you'll get to the point where you will move up to becoming general manager of a hotel. I believe it, because that's you're doing your job every day and you love it, and and it shows in the way that you interact with your employees, not only employees, but also the way that I'm greeted as a guest, and I see it, firsthand. So I know you'll get there, but like the thing is that we also have to always be aware that when you get to somewhere else, that's a more a bigger position. There's a responsibility that comes
more
with
responsibility, and then that creates a need for getting somewhere else and moving, and you always wants to do better. But what's the end goal? Maybe when I'm a general manager of a hotel, I have a different goal. Maybe I want to create my own brand, or
exactly.
When you get to a goal, you always have to think about the next step and prepare for it and work hard every day for it, because you always have to set up goals. If you have no goals, I think it's difficult. You have to think about that.
That's kind of like the I guess the contrast, but also the dichotomy of like being happy with whatever like you were using the example of like if you're sitting on an island and you're just happy. I feel like I could actually do that in a sense. Like if I really just became very Zen-like and meditated all day, I could probably feel really happy and content.
But it's amazing. I think it's based on you personally. I couldn't do that. There's a lot of things, I couldn't walk behind a desk and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we were all different, because if we were all the same, it would not, the world would not work. So, thinking differently, approaching someone differently, all of this is good, and that creates, the world that we live in. So that's why it's important.
Well, Joann, I want to take some time to acknowledge you again, like to thank you for making some time here, and also, thank you for everything that you do in terms of the people that you inspire in the hospitality business. I think it's not always easy to be at a level where people look up to you, but also they are responsive to how you talk with them and you respond to them, and how you actually respond to like situations that are harder. And I think you're doing that every day, and I want to thank you for that, because it gives the amazing experience that when we go as a client to the Marcus, to Four Seasons, that's what we enjoy, and that's what makes the memories, the moments. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I think it's I'm just lucky, and I have a great job, and I'm happy with what I have, and sometimes I stop. I don't compare myself, and I think we try at Marcus to welcome everyone and create the most memories we can, and that's the end goal. You leave the restaurant and you're happier than you were 2 hours ago before entering the restaurant.
And it adds onto, basically it just adds onto your night.
Yeah.
It's like watching a good movie, and then you end your good movie at Marcus, and
exactly.
then you're like, oh wow, what a good ending, you know. So on that, this will be the ending of the show, and I wanted to ask for the Mistral. It's opening this week.
Yeah, so opening is of the 22nd.
Okay.
So Thursday. It will be open for dinner only.
Okay.
And Marcus is open for dinner right now.
And it's still Wednesday to Sunday?
Yeah, Wednesday to Sunday. We'll change through through the summer, but we'll keep you posted on our social media channel when we open the rest, and then we have a nice gospel brunch coming as well on the 25th, and that's great. I think there's a lot of new things coming at the Four Seasons, and that's very exciting.
Well, thank you for taking the time today. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Joann.
Take care.